Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Derek and Greg. I almost said Hardcore Metal Technique, but we are Hardcore Metal Technique, just kind of doing our morning shows. I see that Gavin's already on the chat side, and you guys can get to chat pretty easy just by clicking on the comment button from the Spreaker website or format, whatever, and clicking on the comment button. You can talk to these guys on chat. A lot of experience on there. Also, if you have questions, maybe you're new to the hobby or have a detector that one of these guys have, they can help you out with information and stuff. But this morning's show, we wanted to talk a little bit about cleaning relics, cleaning items that you find in the ground. It's a topic that we bounce back to a little bit every so often because it's an often asked question. How do I clean this or that, or what's the safest way to do it? Should I clean it or should I not? And Craig and I have been doing this for quite a while, and a lot of times, I think, Craig, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. You're kind of judging right off the bat whether to clean something, because we both have ruined stuff by being maybe too aggressive with it, as far as chemicals and stuff, and it's something we've learned through the school of hard knocks, what to use and what not to use, and what's easier on items, especially using electrolysis, using these acidy, what would you call it? A lot of citric acid, Craig. People were using like lemon juice, and I've even heard of. Oh, I've tried it too. Hot sauce. Putting pennies in that, but you end up hurting them unless you're just trying to get a date on it. I mean, you don't want to take like an old copper coin, a large cent or something like that, and clean it with something pretty aggressive, because you're ruining the patina on it. It's not as visually pleasing to look at. Obviously, a lot of us like the relic hunters coin. We like the patina on items, whether it's a coin or maybe it's a Civil War item of some kind, or really anything. I'm using.
It's a kind of a judgment call. You got to. It comes kind of with experience, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
I remember, I didn't know anything about the cleaning part, and it's gotten quite, a lot more sophisticated nowadays. But as far as coins go, like the copper coins, I've been using peroxide on them, and it really lifts all that dirt off, and a lot of times even some of that green crud that's on the coins will come off. I've had pretty good success on them, where they come out, where they look, they're real brown looking, but they're just beautiful looking.
Yeah, keep the detail in there. I mean, it gets.
Now, one thing you might want to do that I've been doing is I put Renaissance wax on them to preserve the, if you leave, a lot of times if those coins, after you clean them, if you leave them in the air just sitting around, they'll develop, the green will come back on them, the corrosion. And actually a lot of times it'll come back fairly quickly. But if you put, like a coating on it, then, the Renaissance wax, and let it dry. And what I do is I kind of buff it. I put it on kind of thick, and then when I buff it, it seems to bring out the details even on some of the more, iffy coins that don't look as good. Tends to make them look better. I've even seen, I saw the Hoover boys were doing that on certain buttons and things that they wanted to preserve the
detail
like the
of
details
it. Yeah.
And stuff on it. But yeah, it's like if you get like a Civil War bullets, you want to keep the white patina on them. My problem up here is most of the bullets don't come out of the ground with a patina on them; they come out of gray, which is kind of odd.
And that deals with mineralization. Do you have a little mineralization? You have a clay layer and stuff.
I have so much coal and carbon in the ground that I think that there's no oxygen that's getting on these bullets in the ground like normal. It's a the buttons come out of the ground really good in the copper coins. The ground's pretty neutral. There's no real mineralization up here. It's just that I've got this railroad debris from the railroads when they kind of like pushed. They kind of pushed all that stuff into a lot of these yards down this way. I found them. It's the same way down at my other site down the street.
Mm-hmm.
But tons of square nails. It just the place is littered with them.
Yeah.
It's just. I went up there recently. When I hadn't been up there in a while, and I decided to try the new programs, and I was walking around up there, and I was looking down, and you could just see nails sticking, sitting on the ground where all that rain for about 6 months has washed all the dirt off of them. And I was finding marbles and little porcelain buttons and mother pearl buttons and just pot shards everywhere. It's just amazing.
Yep.
You don't really know, all the stuff that's in the ground, but these colonial sites, they're sites that have been there for 200 or 300 years. Really, there's so much iron in the ground from the nails and everything. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I didn't even say anything about this, Greg. That guys, now you can hear us on Pandora. Thought that was kind of cool. Didn't realize that they had put us on there. If you guys get Pandora, it's like Spotify or iHeartRadio. I thought it was pretty cool. I went on there. Was it yesterday, Craig? I texted you the day before. I said, "Hey, did you know we're on Pandora?" So, and I didn't even know that they.
I knew that we were signed up for it, but I didn't know we were on it.
Yeah. My daughter called last night and talked to Pauline about it. Her mom, and like, "Did you know we're on Pandora?" I said, and she said, "Well, no, your dad didn't say anything about it yet." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't really realize either until I got on there and." I get it on my cell phone, when I get in the car and stuff, and I guess we're one of the only ones on there, metal detecting ones. They have metal detecting songs. Some of the, I think, which Butch Holcomb's song, intro song that he was playing. I don't know if he still is or not. About a year or two ago, and I'm trying to remember the name of it now. Shoot me, Craig. I can't remember anything. It seems like, but yeah, that was on there and stuff. But we're kind of branching out a little bit and. I'm sure, a lot of the other shows probably be going over there too. It's kind of a different, Pandora was like a kind of a different area. It wasn't linked in with like iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all them. So I thought that was pretty good. But anyways, if you have Pandora now, you can get us on there and listen to it while you drive or whatever. A lot of ours are mobile apps, so I think 75% of our listeners listen off their phones and stuff. So you can tune that right into your car, so that's kind of cool. Well, we got Digger Man on here this morning, and Brandon from New York, and Gavin, and we were talking about cleaning relics and stuff, and there's a lot of different processes, and we always say disclaimer, on any of this stuff because obviously some of these procedures, if you don't do them right, you can actually hurt yourself or if anything, ruin a item, and it's better to try if you have something new that you want to try to clean. We'll just say pennies. Just you get some wheat pennies or something like that, and you want to try to clean them up. Use one that's kind of toasted already. You don't want to ruin a nice patina on a coin or something like that. As far as copper goes, and silver's the same way. Like with electrolysis, don't do pennies and then go and turn around and do a silver like a mercury dime, because a lot of times it will transfer. Get that reddish color from the penny, the copper in the penny onto the silver in some cases, and it'll come out looking cruddy. Just doesn't look good at all. Same with nickels, Craig. Nickels are another one that you kind of use on seated. There was a Walking Liberty quarters and Buffalo nickels had that raised glyph on them, for the dates and everything. And most of the ones we find. I've only have a couple where you can actually read the date on them, and I think everybody has the same issue, especially with the Buffalo nickels, unless it was a freshly dropped, like after they got it. Usually those dates are worn off.
they do pretty good in hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah.
I've had a couple that they got like a dark patina on them, but they look good. All the detail comes out.
Are you
Main
mixing
thing
that at all with water, or are you just straight up peroxide?
Nah, I just do straight up peroxide. Right away it'll start bubbling, and it's lifting off the dirt and the corrosion.
Yeah.
And I'll wait a little while and then take a toothbrush and put and brush it real hard on both sides and then put it back in. But you can make the coins look really good with the peroxide a lot of times. I've used CLR sometimes on, like I used one on a buffalo nickel. It seems like if you got silver or some kind of coating, on the brass, you don't want to put CLR really on bare brass unless you just brush it real quickly on. If you leave it on, it starts turning the coin reddish and orangish, and or the button or whatever the brass is. But if it's got like silver or maybe some gold gilding on it, like I had a Waterford Benedict button from Waterford, New York, which is a button company that made just really high class buttons. And this button was just coated with gold. It was like triple gilded
almost dipped dipped in gold almost.
Yeah.
It seemed like.
Yeah. So it had kind of like stuff stuck onto the gold, and I brushed it. I just dipped the toothbrush in some CLR, and then had I had the water running, and and then I brushed it real quick, and then doused it in the water and looked at it. After about 2 or 3 brushes, all the gunk was off of it, and it just it actually shines it up even.
I've used, and I don't know if you've ever tried this, Craig, with jewelry cleaner on silver and gold items. It's another thing where you might want to brush it real quick to see what it's going to do. But, I wouldn't suggest soaking it. Soaking anything copper or anything like that, you don't want to soak in that kind of stuff. But silver and gold, it's obviously a jewelry cleaner. You just don't want to lift up the gold gilding. And that can happen. That cleaner can get behind that gold.
Another thing I've used is lemon juice. If you got a gilded button, a lot of times the just take a toothbrush, dip it in the water in the lemon juice, and just brush it real quick and wash it off. A lot of times it'll bring out the gold, like just look like a gold coin almost. It's so shiny. But a lot of this is a judgment call, and a lot of it takes experience, and I've seen a lot of people dig some really nice stuff, and they, like I dug a convex eagle button that was a militia button, and they're real rare. That there was only like 4 in the Albert's button book that I saw that were like that, but this thing was like triple gilded. It didn't have a lot of gold on the front, but on the back, in the little bowl part in the back, it looked like a gold coin. It was so shiny. But you gotta have some experience, and I brushed on this button for about 3 or 4 days just to see if I could see anything first.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure. I was looking in the book, and I couldn't tell exactly which one it was. And then when I brushed enough one time on the back, I could see some gold in there, and then I knew it was the gilded one. So then I decided I'd go ahead and clean it a little better. But I could probably clean the front, but the front, I brought some gold out on the eagle on the front, so it looks good. But the back is just stunning. You can see gilt, and just, massive gold on the back. But I've seen some people ruin some, beautiful, coins and, relics and buttons and stuff by, they just, some relics just don't come out of the ground very well, and they're just never going to be able to clean them up very good.
And you don't want to
And then
ruin the
some,
patina on them anyways, because that's part
yeah,
of the I don't know the
there's another
prettiness
one
of an
called
item. Is just the patina on there. Sometimes it comes up with some really nice shadowed in there. I mean, Digger
there's
Man on
another
here.
tech
Oh, go ahead, Craig.
there's
Sorry.
another tech there's another technique called uncleaning.
Hmm.
Some people actually put dirt on relics that have bad patina on them, and that you can actually bring out some detail with dirt on them. Um, I know guys that will take like Vaseline and put them on the highest parts of the coin. I mean the button or whatever, and then dust the coin with some dirt. And I've seen a lot of like Confederate buttons, like block I's and block A's and script I's, stuff like that, that come out of the ground really, kind of
Toasted,
crappy
like,
looking.
yeah.
This uncleaning will make them, bring out the design on the button and stuff. And sometimes that's as good as you can do. If you're in really mineralized ground, the ground just messes with the brass. If you're like down there in Culpeper, that ground is bad on buttons. And but if you have a button with the gold gilding on it, it'll protect the button. It'll
Yeah, we've dug them
basically
even down here by the water. The salt water. And I remember Mike Miller dug one over at the we were hunting down at Fort DeSoto Park there, and he pulled out an eagle button that was just pristine, Craig. I mean, the gold, and you think right by the salt water. If it didn't have that gold gilding on it, it would have ate it up. I would think. I mean, a lot of the buttons come out real nice through there because I think it's because they have that shell pack. It's like a crushed up clam, whatever the shells out
yeah.
there.
There's no
And
mineralization.
right,
Yeah.
right. So they come out pretty good. But he dug the prettiest doggone eagle button. It looked like they come off a jacket. You know, you don't find them like that up north as much. I mean, a lot of times the gilding's kind of going, and it just depends on the area you're in. Digger Man on here is saying he has a nice Civil War era copper ring, and he's always afraid to clean it. I would be too. I wouldn't personally. I wouldn't mess with it a whole lot. Matter of fact, the unclean method, or whatever you want to call it. That's what Craig does. Rubbing a little bit of dirt on it, whatever, get the detail to come out if there is any. But I wouldn't. I'd be real careful with any kind of copper or brass from the Civil War era. It just, if you use any kind of an aggressive
I've
cleaner, you may ruin it totally. I don't know what you think,
I've
Craig.
gotten into where I'd sit there and brush it with a toothbrush first, to check, to see if I can, take some of the stuff off and see what what it looks like underneath the dirt, and you can kind of get an idea of whether to, and it takes experience. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I ruined some stuff right, in the very beginning because
Oh,
I
I
didn't
did too.
even know. I remember the first bullet I dug. I took all the white patina off. I didn't know you were supposed to keep it on.
Yeah.
And I got so where with Civil War bullets, I would just put them in ammonia, for a little while, and then just brush the dirt off. They would come out really white. But
That's like V Nichols
you know,
too. A lot of times V Nichols up there, but most of the people that dig V Nichols are usually pretty toasted. I mean, they're not. They didn't. A lot of them don't survive. The details don't survive. And I had an 1887 V nickel one time, and you could just make out the V on the back of it, and so I knew it was a V nickel. But I tried to clean that, and boy, I screwed it all up. I mean, it would just come out looking nasty. I never did get it, a real good. You can see the date, but everything else, I kind of ruined the coin. I guess I could probably go back to that one and see if I could try that getting, like you talked about, dip, just put that Vaseline on there or some kind of maybe that jeweler or that wax that you're talking about, Craig. Maybe I could try that and see if it can bring up the detail of it.
I saw the Hoover Boys. Kurt from the Hoover Boys was putting that on buttons and certain copper coins, to preserve and
Hmm.
it does a great job. It's kind of expensive for a little jar of it, but uh, you don't put much on it. You just kind of, you know, I just rub my finger on it and then kind of apply it, and then once I get it kind of thick on there, then I let it dry for a while, and then I'll come back and brush it.
Hmm.
But
Well, you see them clean a
I
lot of stuff. The art, like the historians and stuff like that, when they get manuscripts in, or maybe paintings, or they use probably a lot of different, very mild chemicals. I think they would have to be,
well,
cleaning like oil paintings and stuff like that. I wonder if maybe that's a
it's
site
an
we
art
should check
form,
out.
on cleaning this stuff. I got into this Renaissance wax is what the British Museum uses,
Hmm.
the Royal Museum. So you figure if they're using it, that's probably one of the best ones.
Yeah, yeah.
But you see a lot of guys like I watch the Hoover Boys. They dig a lot of copper coins in these farm fields, and they got fertilizer and stuff in the
You
fields,
just
and
beats them.
and a lot of times they'll toothpick the coin, with a toothpick to try to get a lot of the gunk off of it. But it's the bad thing about metal detecting is you dig a coin from the early 1800s or 1700s, and it's just toast, and you go, oh my God.
Oh, look at all those King Georges we dig that are, you can't barely. You're going by weight and shadows. If you can see which way the head's facing and this and that, it's the only thing
Yeah.
left to do. You have no other way of bringing out any kind of detail on it, but you know what it is. I found that 4 Real, and I used electrolysis. It had such a, I mean, it was just impacted with this black. Well, I found it in the water. I mean, obviously in salt water, so you can imagine. It was, and it just. By the time I got done with electrolysis, you couldn't even. There was no detail. It was just like it had scratches, and it was beat up, but there was no really telling exactly what year or even a cross on it or anything. It was
Yeah, it
electrolysis
probably
too much.
just got sandblasted over the years.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
it was a lot of
that reason.
coral. It was probably smashed
Yeah.
against the coral and everything else, and it's just real rough. And but I had to use electrolysis on it for like 6 hours on and off. Just kept on checking it, because you can actually do that too much. And if you're going to do the electrolysis, I always mention this because I didn't know it, and I could have really breathed in some bad stuff. Don't ever use stainless steel as your conductor. Uh, Usually, you hook a piece of iron, or some kind of metal, but not stainless steel, on the negative side or positive. I can't remember what it is now off the top of my head. But at any rate, when you put that in there, and then you put your coin on the other lead and set let the coin hang there, and you can actually see it bubbling, and it's pulling stuff off of the coin to the other to the piece of iron or whatever. Don't use stainless steel. It creates a gas that if you're in a kind of a not well ventilated area, can actually kill you, or hurt your lungs pretty good. Fortunately, I do this out in my garage. I have garage door open, that kind of thing, where I wasn't dealing with that because I had good ventilation. You're creating these gases and stuff, and it depends on what you're cleaning and everything else. Just do it in a well ventilated area. Do it in a controlled environment where you can uh, have the proper. We use cell phone chargers is what I use. It has a low amperage and everything like that, voltage, and you don't want to use something very aggressive, and you don't want to leave stuff overnight. I don't suggest doing it. I think you should keep an eye on it anytime you're dealing with electricity. Um, and just be careful. Do a lot of research before you try it. That's that disclaimer thing. But this probably applies even with chemicals too. I mean, you got to, I've heard of guys using ammonia. I've heard of guys using uh, rubbing alcohol and this and that and the other thing, which to be careful of the reaction part of it, Craig. I mean, I've heard some weird stories over the years, and people doing something that not only ruin the item but actually can hurt themselves, using acids. Sometimes they can use acids to lift off a date off of like a buffalo nickel that has the date wore
Yeah,
off of it. You got to be just
yeah.
don't hurt yourself, So
Well, there's this stuff called nicotate. You just kind of drip it on there, and then
hmm
sometimes it'll bring the date out. But
yeah,
that's not that bad, really. But the main thing is to safely clean the artifact where you're not damaging it more than it already is.
right.
Trying
I'm
to
trying to
bring
save it.
And it's a judgment call. You learn by experience on what to do. And then you can ask a lot of people, but a lot of people would they're too aggressive with the cleaning. This a lot of times artifacts been in the ground 100, 200, 300 years, and the brass gets very thin. It gets brittle. The
Oh,
coin
even
gets
glass
colored.
does. I mean, those glass bottles
Yeah.
you guys find in the Civil War, hut sites and stuff. And I heard the guys that do this all the time that actually are bottle hunters. They'll say, they dig it out of the ground. Don't mess with. Don't wash it. Just let it sit for like 2 weeks on the shelf. Don't mess with it a whole lot because that those bottles could just crack. I mean, you can they're not used to the oxygen being out in the open air. They've been packed into soil and mineralized ground and everything else. And the same thing kind of applies with those buttons, Craig. I don't know if that makes a big difference or not. I wouldn't go and start really cleaning on something bad when, with any kind of chemical before it is time to set and got acclimated to the atmosphere, being out in the oxygen again. Maybe that will harden it up a
Yeah.
little bit by leaving it alone. Then you can clean it, and it's kind of drives you crazy because you want to see what it is, you want to see the details and everything. Try to
I
use.
think using hydrogen peroxide is the safest way. It kind of just lifts the dirt off and
Right.
some of the corrosion. Uh, I've had really good results on copper and brass using that, but I don't think you really want to use it on a silver coin. It kind of sometimes puts a funny patina on a coin on
Right.
a silver.
Kind of give it like a weird. Oh, Gavin's saying don't. He has a tumbling machine. Scare me. Probably okay for the modern spendables or modern coins. And yeah, Gavin, don't use rock tumblers. You can buy them at like Serious Detecting or Calico, whatever. And they have the special sands and everything, powders and everything you can put in there. It's good for like if you guys are beach hunters or whatever, you're getting into beach hunting. You always get them corroded coins and stuff. They're probably, within the last 40 years, pennies and stuff like that. Yeah, throw those in a rock tumbler, let them go for, overnight. You're not missing out, you're not losing out on anything, but you wouldn't want to put your 1800 coins, your Indian heads and stuff, because that thing can actually, depending on what kind of sand you're using, get beat it to death, and you're just ruining the coins. But if you're just trying to get that crusty crap off of there so you can actually turn the coins in and trade them in for cash or whatever through a Coinstar or whatever. You can use a rock tumbler. A lot of the guys down here use them. I actually have one. Craig, it's brand new in the box. I've just never had a need really to use it. I'll just smack them with a hammer. These like Zinkins and stuff, because it's funny. You'll find a like a 1952 wheat penny, and you pull it out of the surf right there, and the thing is maybe a little bit green, but it's in really nice shape. And then you turn around and dig a coin from a year ago or 2 years ago, and it's got holes in it already. These zinc pennies.
Oh yeah.
My God, it just eats them so fast that they're going to be lost forever. I mean, it's going to get to the point where there's going to be a span between 1986 and for present, that they started using zinc in the copper pennies here in the U.S. That you're not going to find any coins like that. Probably in 20 years, you're not going to find any coins on the beach that aren't just beat to death or gone altogether or just remnants of them, because if it can eat them up that fast in 2 or 3 years, 10, 15, 20 years from now, they're not even going to be there. So there's going to be a span of time where, you're not going to find pennies from that era, at all, 50, 60 years from now, people doing it.
I remember many years ago, we boated across the river to this ferry that's right across from Alexandria, and I think it might be protected now, but it had like a little beach, and it was all clay. and we dug. I think we dug between three of us 10 large cents, and all of them were just, they just looked so terrible. It was just, they were just really bad. And I think I got three or four, and I tried, trying to see some detail on them, and I finally just put them in a vibrator thing that you put like what do you call it? What's that, gravel from like a fish tank?
Oh yeah,
add in there,
yeah.
And you can put sand in it.
I never tried that thing before. Does it work good? I've never tried one.
Well, I got the coins where all the stuff came off, and it was down to bare copper, and I was actually able to see some dates on some of the coins. I actually one of them was a classic head, 1810, that came out fairly good, but it was funny. I ended up tumbling the other guys' coins too, because I showed them what mine looked like, and they go, "Wow, it's at least you can see what it is," And
right. Identify it.
I dug one down in a basement. I dug a King George farthing, I think it was King George II farthing, and it was just totally toast. And the guy that owned the house wanted to, he was going, man, because I said, well, I'm pretty sure it's a King George II, and I was telling him, I could see kind of, two raised, ones on, Roman numerals, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But I ended up using that Nicodate stuff to take it down to where it was just shiny, copper, and I was able to get some get some
information.
The trouble with that coin, it has been stepped on, and for 200 or 300 years, in this basement, and it was only like a half an inch deep, and it was a dirt basement, it was like clay and stuff in it, so it was just, it was rotten looking. But at least I knew exactly, I couldn't get a date off of it, but at least I knew it was King George II, and it, I could see the back of it. It wasn't a Hibernia or anything, but sometimes. Sometimes you can get one side to look good, and the other side will never look good.
Yeah, it always seems like it's the buttons too that do that. The front of it is like crap, and the back of it's so like the button you found, Craig, with the gold gilding on it. It's so nice on the back side of it. It's the way it was sitting in the ground, essentially. But yeah, it sucks when you want. Yeah, the prettiest side is always the side that gets beat up, But. I was watching a video. The guys were beach hunting with the Simplex, and it was over in Europe or somewhere in the UK, anyways. But I was looking at their coins. Some of the coins they have from, I don't know how old they are, not real old, but they actually are steel or iron inside, and then covered. It's almost like a huge, almost like encapsulated in copper or silver, whatever they're using. But the salt water would just make them bleed, out the. It's like you could actually peel the. It looks like you can kind of peel the front of the coin off, and it has a iron center. It was kind of neat that the detectors were picking it up still, but he was saying that it has more of that on there as the salt water beats on it, that it bleeds through enough, and it almost can fool a metal detector. And he was digging. He was actually doing pretty good with them. I thought that beach program doesn't seem bad at all on the Simplex. So it was kind of neat, neat watching him, just what he was digging up. But I think he even found a, oh God, I want to say it was 1800s coin or something right on the beach, and it wasn't even that deep, Craig. It just kind of got washed in or whatever. But they have a lot of coke. That's not coke. I don't know. They have some kind of mineralization on their beaches. Some of them, anyways. Darren Groves didn't want any. This stuff was real bad. It's just, they got a lot of stuff in the ground.
Oh, a lot of times they got black sand.
Yeah, the black sand messes with them.
I've seen that in some places in the river, and it's just like, you'll see like kind kind of like a white or tan sand, but then there'll be like big long streaks of black in it.
Or even red. I've
Uh,
seen red a lot on the East Coast, Florida. Get black sand and like a reddish sand that streaks over the regular colored sand, the tan color. And it's mineralization is what that is, and it'll set a metal detector off if you don't have your detector set up right. But yeah, it just eats up coins. And there's actually differences between the East Coast and West Coast of Florida because you're dealing with the Gulf of Mexico on one side and Atlantic on the other. So it's a different style of hunting. I've found that I had to make some adjustments to my detectors, and I hunted a little different on the East Coast as compared to like Clearwater, St. Pete, all on the west side, Fort Myers, all the way down through. Um, the items come out sometimes different. Now I went out to Caladesi Island, Craig, and a couple other islands. Actually, I took a boat trip to one of them, and they have this coral, brain coral rocks. Like, oh my god, it was the worst beach. You hit this; it's like softball-sized chunks of coral, and you're trying to dig in that with a sand scoop or even a shovel. And you can imagine coins or anything just getting beat to death over the years. And I think it was an old uh, wall they put out there, and a storm came in and just pushed it all into the shoreline, and they never cleaned it up really. So you're digging items, and there's a lot of it's a really tough hunt actually. Uh, uh, but to retrieve a target or anything like that, there was a guy out there with I think he was using the Mine Lab Excalibur, and I was using I think it was a Bliss tool or one of those detectors, but we were actually noticing how in all metal he would hunt in all metal with the Excalibur too, and then he would use discrimination. Like if he found a target of some kind, and believe it or not, sometimes we were testing this theory that he was getting an iron signal. He goes into discrimination mode and it was losing it, and then I'd go over with my detector and I said, I think this is non-ferrous, and we'll dig out a coin or something like that was like 7, 8 or 9 inches deep. So that coral, I don't know, it doesn't have mineralization in it, but it's just a junky beach is what it is. It's not going to hurt you or nothing like that. It's not like trash in there, but it's a lot of mineralization. It's weird. You get in some areas down here, and you don't expect to find it so much in Florida. Like up in Alaska, I expect to find it, or anywhere on the West Coast. Or right, on the East Coast, even the black sands and the red sands and stuff like that coming in, but not on the Gulf side, of the state, Gulf of Mexico. So, kind of getting into a different topic there, Craig. But well, I guess it's already almost 40 after 7 already, so probably ought to wrap it up some. I'm doing some checking here today, and I told Craig before the show, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I got some information I'm going to share with y'all on Saturday night show about a detector. It's something good, but I got to get some more information before I talk too much about it. But listen in on Saturday night. It's a longer show, and we can kind of go into more detail on stuff. But Craig, you're in 20-some degree weather. I'm finally down to tomorrow morning. It's supposed to be 61 to 62 degrees, which will be perfect hunting weather. But we've been jumping up into the 80s all week long, and the humidity's high. It's way off from what we're used to. I think usually we're breaking like low 70s tops during the daytime this time of year. So I'm kind of out for detecting this weekend, but as of like Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll be able to get out a little bit. You guys don't forget about Veterans Day on Monday, and of course you Marines out there, Marine Corps birthdays on Sunday. So there may be some activities around your area here in the States or whatever you can get involved with and share in that event. And if anything else, have a nice hamburger and watch a couple football games, all that kind of stuff. Have some fun.
Go out metal detecting.
Yeah, go out metal detecting, doggone it. Represent. I would
some military items.
That's Relics. Right. Save some military history.
Yeah.
All right. We'll catch y'all later. Be sure to check out the other shows, like and follow them. Check out Pandora if you want to. I was looking at it this morning, and it's kind of neat. It's another platform for a lot of podcast to kind of go to. Maybe I don't know. I'm not really sure how we did it, Craig. I mean, more or less just filled out a paper on that. So Loy or whoever, you guys probably do it too if you want to get onto that platform. So other than that, guys, be safe at work if you're working today. Have fun if you're detecting, and we'll talk to you on Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Have a great day.